Welcome everybody to my podcast, Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan and I love to talk, but I also love to listen. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the episode. And today we're with two different people, a mother and a daughter team. We haven't had a mother and a daughter, but they are in a joint venture with someone else who isn't here today. But the mom's name is Belinda Keats, or Ben, as we like to call her. Welcome to Big Little Small Talk, Ben.
Thanks, Megan.
Ben, I really appreciate you being here today because you have done this amazing thing, which I think is an incredible thing. You have set up Common Ground. What is Common Ground?
Megan, as all things that take place like this, there's a story behind it. So Common Ground Foundation is we've set up accommodation for people who are on the medical road. Specifically, we are targeting regional families so that they have a space to come back, close the door, have a conversation, have a quiet spot, a bit of green grass for kids to run around. And this was all discussed while we watched Friends in a terrible spot in 2022. Since then, we've been able to get 3 units at Picnic Point, and they're perfect. They have their own backyard, they're fully self-contained, and we're helping a wee bit.
I mean, Ben, it's all very well to say, oh, what can we do? But, I mean, literally, how do you go from saying, what can we do, to buying 3 2-bedroom units at Picnic Point? How does it happen?
Oh, it's a pretty funny story. It actually started over a cup of tea. My daughter and another dynamic young woman were part of that conversation, and it was, how can we do something? And then it was, well, let's get a house. Let's have a black tie dinner. No, let's do better than that. And we had an event at Bracknell Lodge, Wairima, which raised enough to buy a unit. And then there was a complex that we really couldn't pass up. So we got some help to back into that. And off it went with the help of the Toowoomba Hospital Foundation actually facilitating and bringing people in and out.
Well, I want to talk about the Hospital Foundation in a moment, but was it the getting enough money from the initial fundraising, or were you doing sort of little bits? And where were you living at this stage? Were you living, because tell the listeners your history. You grew up north of Cloncurry.
I did. I grew up in the Lower Gulf, raised my 4 children up there during that time, as most families don't get through unscathed, but we had a child very, very sick years ago, and I had to leave the family for months. So that was a really difficult time. And then my husband later developed cancer, and through that period we had to be away from home, and coming, the difficulty of trying to hold your family together, run a business, and deal with the trauma of sickness. It's difficult. And I think anyone in that position, you look for patches where you can just be quiet and be a family. So we were living remotely, which remotely can mean out on a station, but remotely can mean, 100 kilometres from Toowoomba or in a small town. You just need to have those medical services.
So for you, going through that with your own daughter and then with your husband, were you at that time thinking, if we just had somewhere we could, as you say, like gather as a family, and that always stayed in your mind, did it, where you think that was the really important thing to me, that if I could have had that would have taken some of the pressure away?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, just to sit quietly with the family, and you're always meeting other people in dire situations, but to be able to shut the door, I think is a really important thing. And then just, people come into town and they're having to pay a lot for accommodation, and that is the last thing on their mind. If someone can step in and say, hey, there's this, and it's easy to get to the hospital, that's just another thing that can be taken off their plate.
Well, take me through your own experience, like when you had to be away from your family, first with your daughter and then with your husband. Where did you stay? And how did you know about accommodation? Did someone help you with that, or...?
So when our daughter was sick, Mum was involved with some accommodation at the Royal Children's Hospital, and it was really because of Mum. But it was a bed sit, and it was fabulous. But there was a bed there and a microwave, and that was fine for me. But I had 3 other children and my husband that used to come down to visit, and then we'd have to find somewhere, and I was reluctant to go anywhere else because I wanted to be really close. And that went on for months. And then when Tom was sick, we were very lucky. We had a friend at Kangaroo Point who opened his doors, and I'll be forever grateful. But even there, when the family got together, we were all on top of each other, and we were trying to look out to the other people and make the polite conversations. And sometimes you just need to huddle and let the grief go.
And not sort of feel as though you have to sort of be on your best behaviour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because sometimes I can imagine you wouldn't be on your best behaviour. But, I sort of digressed a little bit there because you said, we said over a cup of tea, this is what we should do. And did you have the initial fundraising things, and did you know exactly what that was going to look like? Or was this first event, the Rodeo at Bracknell Lodge at Wairema, raising, was it $300 and something thousand?
Yeah, so $350,000 was that first event, and that was within a number of weeks of us sitting down together. So it was phenomenal. It really was. And we were obviously on the steering wheel. But like anything, it's the people that get behind it, and it was just phenomenal. It was full of glamour, and we had this fantastic caterer who's come back on board. The Knutsons from Bracknell Lodge it really was just a wonderful, wonderful, fun night that everyone got behind. But it also really cemented the fact that people want this service. So then, you've got to deliver. Yeah.
I know, like you're downplaying it, Ben, but, how do you go to having all of the Bronco riders and the insurance and the stands and the cater, just who did all of that? Was it just the 3 of you?
So it was
organising?
it was the 3 of us. If you ask us now, we would probably say, I don't
Can't
really
remember.
know.
Like having children. It was a blur.
But we're just coming up to our second event now because we've had to postpone 2. And there are some wonderful people on board. The Bracknell Lodge people, the Extreme Bronx people, the competitors that are coming. So we've got Australia's top riders coming, but we've got a mock-casino happening, and everyone that has got involved has their story. So we think we've been manifesting things, but you tend to attract people that want to help, and that's the way it's rolled, really.
Back up the truck a bit. What's a mock-casino?
Mock-casino.
What's that?
Yeah, so
mock-casino.
Yes.
Gambling.
So we've got we've got lots of gambling going on.
Well, I do want to hear some more about the rodeo, definitely, because you yourself have a child who is a rodeo rider. Am I right?
You are correct. Yeah, that's probably another reason why I want to have this accommodation. Yeah, I've got a bull rider son who's a PBR rider, and yeah, they've got a fair bit of spunk, those boys.
Yeah. Why the rodeo particularly? Is it something that really identified with country people, or how did that happen?
So when
as a fundraiser,
when we approached Bracknell Lodge about having an event, Rick Knutson has bucking horses, and the conversation just skidded along. Extreme Bronx Australia, we thought, we'll just give them a call and just see, thinking it was a very slim chance. And they're full of regional families. They're full of boys from regional families. They've all had experiences. And once more, they just got 100% behind us. So that's what started it. The 3 of us are from rural Australia. So I guess rodeo camp drafting, that sort of thing's been a big part of our lives. The Australian camp draft community has been incredible with raising funds for Common Ground, as many other regional communities have done too.
Right. So that you are now kind of like a charity of choice for some of these. How have you got the word out there? How do they know? Like the little fundraiser in Mount Isa, say, you know, the CWA, how do they know about you?
Word of mouth is a really big thing, and really that's how it has been. We, the three of us, do a bit of camp drafting. My kids all move around the country competing and that sort of thing. And the same with Felicity and her family. So really it has been word of mouth. And I can only keep saying it is obviously something that's needed, because it's just spreading, and we've done a couple of lunches and people just come straight up and say, what can we do?
Yeah. I will talk to Georgie about her friendship with Felicity, because I would like to do a he said, she said, she said, she said about how they would describe each other. But Ben, you, as you say, grew up on a cattle station, and your father, Keith, was ill when you were younger as well. So tell me about the different experience of having someone ill in your family in the 80s. Am I right? 80s,
late 80s, 90s, yeah.
And what was his experience, or your mother's experience, or the rest of the family's experience?
Very much that Dad went away and had treatment, and we stayed home, and they had to do a lot on their own, I think. Dad ended up moving away from the property, and you know, we kept things rolling along for them. And obviously a lot of treatment has changed since then. But I think back to, you know, even when Mum had us as children. Mum used to go off to Brisbane for like a couple of months, and then Dad would fly down maybe later on after the baby was born, or if you got there in time. They're all experiences that we take for granted now, aren't they?
No, that's right. And we had a similar experience in our family where, Mum would go down. But where did your mother stay? Did she have family in Brisbane?
Mum stayed with her family in Brisbane. Yeah.
My sister Jane, when she was born, all my father wrote in his little book was, third girl born today, 40 points of rain or something like that. So, you know.
Well, I have one brother born at home on the property, delivered by Dad, actually. So
tell me some more about that story. That's amazing. Which brother is that?
Tony.
Right.
Yeah. So he came a little bit early, and it was middle of a storm, and they couldn't do anything. So it would have been hilarious, because it was the old party line, you know, try to speak to the doctor. And Dad never talked much about it, but I imagine, you know, he would have delivered calves and delivered lambs and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Right.
Mum dined out on that forever, as you can imagine.
Exactly. A good story. So everything went okay? No complications? Nothing.
No.
Right. And just talk to me a little tiny bit about, say, the flying doctors. Did you ever have flying doctors ever come to your property or anything like that with medical emergencies?
They did, yeah. When I was pregnant with my eldest daughter, the flying doctor picked me up during that pregnancy, and I went to Mount Isa. And then when Tom was ill, he decided he kept trying to do everything, you know, and he had a buster off a horse, and it was during chemo. Anyway, he got a cut and just bled very, very badly, and we had a horrific, it was just horrendous. But the flying doctor picked him up, and they're our angels up anywhere remotely. The flying doctors are magnificent. Mm.
Now, I know that you have to leave us, but I remember from somewhere right back in my memory, something about Belinda Mott being the first helicopter woman to get a helicopter's license or something like that. Tell me that story.
Well, no, I wasn't the first, but I was early mustering with helicopters, That was a lot of fun, and I did that for quite a few years until I had a few kids on the ground and started school, and I thought, enough's enough.
Better.
My plate got too full.
Because you had come to Gatton College, hadn't you? Was that right? And studied there after boarding school?
I did a short stint at Gatton. I started with early childhood teaching, which I then went on and used because I taught my kids through School of the Air for a long time. And then I did a little stint at Gatton with the horse course, and then I ended up flying, which was a lot of fun.
You've got a lot of stories under your belt, Belinda Mott. Okay, now I'll just quickly ask you, do you have a favourite royal? No time for royals or for silly gossip like that. No. Got a favourite royal?
Well, you'd have to have a... Princess Mary would have to be a little bit of a favourite, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe Anne for you, a bit horsey. No.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Too horsey. What about the song that can't keep you off the dance floor?
Oh, Megan. Well, I guess all songs have a good story, don't they? So ain't no mountain high enough, I guess.
And the story is? Or is it fairly self-evident?
It's probably self-evident.
Thank you so
Life's
much for
good.
coming in and sharing your story with us. And we look forward to the next rodeo, what's the date of it? It's the Ride for a Roof, it's called, the 22nd of March? Yeah?
22nd of March, yeah. And the tickets are through Tribe Booking.
Okay, yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I mean, it's just an incredible thing that you're doing. Yeah, wonderful. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan. You're on Big Little Small Talk, and we are talking to Bin's daughter, Georgie now, Georgie Keats, who is another third of this incredible project of Common Ground, which I go to call Common Grounds, which is incorrect, isn't it, Georgie?
It's close enough.
No, it's not close enough. Good enough is not good enough with you and your organisation. I want to ask you about your friendship with Felicity. So Felicity Burton is the other third of this incredible what would you call it, tripartite or whatever. How do you know Felicity?
Well, I first met Felicity. I'm a few years younger than Felicity, and her husband Carl used to come up to Cloncurry to ride in the Stockman's Challenge, and I remember just looking at her and thinking of her as such a pin-up in so many ways and an absolute queen, and thinking, oh my God, I want to get to know that girl. And I sort of only knew her a little bit until coming down, and then, I don't know, I guess how, paths cross and find a lot of things in common, and she's become one of my best friends, yeah.
Right. I said to your mum that I'd really love to do the, he said, she said, and she said, and how you would describe each other. So why did you and Felicity, and then I guess Ben at the same time, obviously, where did you have this shared thing that you thought we need to get some accommodation? And I love the way you describe it. You say, get medical help in town. So in town, just in town.
Well, I think it definitely all started because of close friends going through a really tough time, and we got together, we're having a barbecue, we're like, we want to do something, raise some money and stuff, and then we got our heads together literally over a cuppa. And next minute we were like, no, we need to be getting accommodation and all these things. And I think it was because we'd all been in situations before ourselves, and also we all know people who have been or know it could happen anytime soon. Mm.
So you grew up in the Gulf where Mum and Dad were, and tell me about sort of your childhood. You've got 3 siblings, 2 sisters and a brother.
2 sisters and a brother, I've got an older sister, Emma, younger sister, Peg, and a little brother, Jack. And, oh my God, I love and idolise them all, and really proud of my family, and so glad that I get to call them my siblings. My mum and dad are honestly my idols. Like, they taught us so much about work ethic, never be afraid of hard work and dream big and go for it kind of thing. And I think that that's really, really, really stuck with me. But We had the absolute best upbringing. I often giggle now because I think about we used to play these droving games and none of us wanted to be the mum or dad, so we were orphan kids.
What does the droving game involve?
Well, we'd have like baling twine yards set up everywhere and we'd pretend we had cattle on the road walking them, and we were probably on hobby horses most of the time in the yard, and then we'd play those games on our horses out in the paddock. Yeah, I wouldn't change it for quids.
Did you go away to boarding school? Because you said, tell me about when you came into the studio here, you said, oh, it's got a certain smell. What's the story about that?
I think it just smelt like a really, it had that lovely old smell, and I just felt like as soon as I came in, I felt like I was in a movie.
Yeah, but you said it smelt like when you had to go into school when you did radio school of the air. So you did that all through primary school?
So we did Mount Isa School of the Air, and we used to go to Mount Isa a couple of times a year for sports days and the Sports and Bush Kids and things like that. And it did really remind me of that as I came in, actually.
Yeah. And then what happened then when you got to high school? Did you have to go away to boarding school?
We did. We went away to boarding school. I started off at Fairholme here in Toowoomba and finished at Townsville Grammar. Got very homesick, and Townsville ended up being a much better spot for me, being closer to home.
And is anyone still up? Your older sister Emma, I think, is still up on the family property. Is that right?
She is, yeah. She's still on the family property, and my younger brother Jack is on country of ours up there as well.
Mm-hmm. And he's the bronco rider, is he?
He's actually a bull rider, but yes.
Right, yes. You see, I need to get my terminology.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Sorted out. So I really want to nail down, how are you the type of people that can go from having an idea to actually having an event, a rodeo at Wairema, and raising $375,000?
I look at it now and I think like it all happened so quickly. The idea came about at the end of August, and then we had the event in November, and it was like it all just gained momentum really quickly, and every idea we had and person we contacted just jumped on board because it resonated with them. And I think also the friends of ours who were really struggling had such a strong impact on the community as well. They'd touched a lot of people's lives and people really wanted to help. And then, yeah, it just happened. I think when you want something to happen and you really hook in, it does.
No, I want to win a Churchill Fellowship, and I don't seem to be able to hook in and making that, manifesting it, I think, as Ben is saying. But who literally did all the phone calling? Is it you and Felicity and Ben? Like you're ringing up the agricultural supply person or whatever?
We did, and I feel like, I don't know, we worked really well as a team. You know, no one wanted to be Mrs. Boss or anything. Everyone just hooked in, and if someone couldn't do something, someone else would say, oh, it's all good, I'll get that sorted. And yeah, it came together, and we just learned that there's a lot of good people out there.
I just find it incredible. I really do, that you can just have something and raise so much money. So let's talk about the fundraiser that's coming up now. So what are the Extreme Broncs?
So the Extreme Broncs, I guess that's the big bronc riding thing in Australia, and so it will be the top bronc riders in Australia putting on a real showcase for us.
Broncs are not bulls.
Broncs are not bulls.
Broncs are
horses.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, keep going.
And they're unbelievable to watch. The riders are true sportsmen, and the horses are amazing too.
So is it an organisation or a competition or something, Extreme Broncs?
Yeah, well, Extreme Broncs is an organisation, but bronc riding is a competition.
Speaking to me like I'm a complete idiot. But anyway, keep going, yeah.
And it's fantastic.
And how hard is it to get them to come to something?
Well, we were so lucky. So the Gill family, we approached them when we had the idea of our event. And because of their relationship with these friends of ours who were struggling, they just straight away jumped on. And we had all these crazy ideas because we wanted girls in their cocktail attire and all that sort of thing, which was something that probably hadn't really been done in Australia before. But we saw a vision, and they were they just said yes and made it happen.
And, you know, what are some of the crazy ideas that got on the scrap heap? Is anything go on the scrap heap? Or how much do you plug away at it and think, yep, I'm going to make this happen, and then something is just too hard? Have you had any ideas like that?
We had different ideas. Since our first event, we had different ideas that we could use as entertainment as well if we wanted to add other stuff to our event. And then we also kept on coming back to it, you know, that less is more, and do what you have well. And I think that we've really stuck by that. Yeah.
Have any of you got a sort of like a marketing or some sort of formal training? Because it just...
No, definitely not. Felicity, definitely through different stuff that she's done with their business, she has given us all a lot of guidance in how to work Facebook and that sort of thing, because I had absolutely no idea, and just different ways to build up your profile for people to see, like tagging and all that lingo.
You're a young person, Georgie. I would have thought you'd be proficient at that sort of thing. So let's go back to the event. It's on the 22nd of March, yeah? And it's called...
Ride for a Roof.
Okay, great, yeah. And what exactly is Extreme Ladies Feature? What does that mean?
So there's 3 women who are getting on bucking horses for us as well. They went over to America last year representing Australia in the women's ranch riding over there. They're tough, those girls. They are getting on for the cause, which will be fantastic and a real crowd pleaser.
So is it like a show, or is that what it is, or?
No, they'll be literally getting on a bucking horse like the boys.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're part of, okay.
Yeah.
And what about the guest speakers? Do we know anything about that at this stage?
We do. We've got Dallas Daly, Marie Balmain and Shane Webke.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah, which will be fantastic. They've all got a really interesting story, and I think we'll all come away with something really special from that.
What is the sort of how does it run? Like, what time does it, and if you want to go for part of it, do you buy a ticket for all of it, and when people are talking about having a table, what does that mean?
So it's going to run from 3 till 10. And probably people start arriving about 2. So we've got buses coming out from Toowoomba to drop people off at Bracknell Lodge. And Bracknell Lodge is beautiful. It's run and owned by Rick and Beck Knutson, and they've just been such a massive part of what we've done. Any ideas we've had, they've just said yes. So we'll have canapes with Mark Carey. We're going to have cocktails by the arena, the rodeo, some guest speakers, a live auction, and also just some fun gambling tables just for a bit more fun. And live music, Luke Geiger.
Okay, is he a country music person?
He is, yes. Yep.
Showing my ignorance once again. How do people, like, this is all for the cause of keeping Common Ground open. How do people get the accommodation if they need it? And is it recommended to people?
So people within the public or private system can use it. They obviously need a referral from their doctor, and they've got to be at least 50 kilometres from town to be able to use it. And the Toowoomba Hospital Foundation are facilitating the bookings and everything, the ins and out of the accommodation for us. So they're a great point of contact for people. And also people to please feel free to get in touch with us if they've got any questions or anything like that.
And who decides who's going in and who's eligible to go in? Is it means tested to go into the accommodation?
That's all decided through the Toowoomba Hospital Foundation. But if there's bushies who contact us or anyone in particular, you know, we'd really love to help families out and people who have got long-term stay needs, because it's perfect for that.
I'm speaking with Georgie Keats, who is one of 3 people who are organising this incredible event called Ride for a Roof, which is I keep saying rodeo. It's rodeo.
Rodeo.
I
Rodeo
get that
is
right.
American,
That's what
Megan.
they tell me. I know. I'm sorry. I don't know. Is there much accommodation available for people to stay when they come, say, to Toowoomba for medical treatment?
Not like we're providing, no. There is accommodation at the Toowoomba hospital, yeah, but different to our accommodation. You know, all of our units are self-contained, and there's 2 bedrooms, there's a backyard, there's security fence so you can keep the kids in, and it's really close to Picnic Point, so it's kind of perfect for a family.
No, and I think Ben really made the point about being able to come home and close the door. And tell me about how you arrived on the name Common Ground.
Well, that was actually, we threw lots of ideas around, and I think it comes back to that manifesting thing. And I think, I feel like the name is definitely kudos to Felicity, because we were all toying around with things, and she was like, oh, it'd be so good if we could just have, like a common ground for everyone. And it sort of came from there. And I think our really big, our massive driver was that, in a time when your world's been set on fire and everything is out of control, people can be offering to do all sorts of things for you. But the truth is, we all need to be able to grip onto something that we can be in control of. So whether that's, cooking a meal for your family, or, being able to do your own washing or anything like that, like, we can draw a lot of strength from that. And I think that was really important.
Yeah, Georgie, you're a woman wise beyond your years. You really are. Now, you're a single mum raising 3 daughters on your own. Do you have a desire to get back out to where you lived and grew up, or do you think that's too hard?
I don't know. Nothing's too hard if you want to. I absolutely love it out there, and it's definitely where my heart is and always will be, and I'm sure I'll end up back out there when the time's right. Yeah, I love it. And then I feel so blessed. We've got the best of both worlds. We're really lucky where we are now too, and we do get to go north quite often as well and get that soul food. And I must say that the car drive's a lot easier that way than than coming home again.
Oh, right. Everyone's happy to go out?
Yeah, we love it.
And do you feel like, do you sort of have horses here? Because you're not living in town, you're living out of town. Do your girls ride horses and do the whole camp draft stuff as well?
Yeah, we're really lucky. We've got cattle, we've got steers from our country up north here, and our horses, and so we've got a little slice of paradise where we are, which is really nice.
And your girls, everyone's at school this year?
They are, yeah.
And where do you think that you see yourself in 5 years' time, Georgie?
Gosh, that's a really tough question, Megan. I don't know. I hope that I keep on sort of, moving forward in the way that I am. Just like, good health, happy in the beef industry. That's probably my girls by my side. That's what's really important.
When you say in the beef industry, do you picture working, or do you mean working on your property?
Definitely both. I'm really lucky that I still have so much to do with our family business, and I'm so passionate about that. I really love cattle. I'm really proud of our breed, and I actually can't really see myself doing anything else.
Just before we go off talking about common ground, is there anything that you sort of thinking, we can't keep doing this, we have to raise all this money every year, or what's the kind of ultimate goal there? Is it to somehow rather set it free and for it to exist on its own, or?
I think that I'm really passionate about it, but also, I'm also very clear that it's something on the side. It's not my life. And definitely I'd like to get this, Toowoomba paid off and everything. And then I think it's we've got the blocks, and it's something that could really grow, but I don't feel like that has to be us. We can use that template and find the right people and and it can go from there, because I think it's something that, could be fantastic throughout Australia.
Do you feel like I've done this really good thing? Like, does it give you a real sense of satisfaction? Or are you just constantly in the weeds of it thinking, okay, what's next? What are we got to organise? What are we got to do?
I don't know. I don't really feel like I feel either of those things. It is what it is. I feel really passionate about it and think it's a great thing, because I just know at any time that any of us could be in the hot seat. But there's a lot of good people doing a lot of good things too. And so this is also just a drop in the ocean, I suppose.
Yeah, amazing. So you have had some ups and downs in your life. I was listening to something, and who even knew that it even existed, called Cowgirl Channel, hey? Cowgirl Channel, who knew? For you, what do you think's been sort of the lowest point in your life, Georgie? Although you somehow rather strike me as an eternally optimistic person.
I would... we've definitely had we've had some tough times. Losing my dad was really, really hard. Yeah, he was our absolute king. I do think probably my lowest time was in early 2020, but I also think that was possibly when I got my strongest, because I feel like when you're in those real lows, you either dig yourself deeper or you somehow find the courage to get out of it. So got a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah. And look, I knew your dad, Tom. He was a very, very dynamic man, and he died, unsadly, of lung cancer. How old was Tom when he died?
He wasn't quite 50. Yeah.
Just so young, yeah.
So young.
Yeah.
So
and
young.
Was there any point where Ben and the rest of the family, you ever said, we just can't do it, we can't stay out here, or?
No, I don't think so. Definitely not. That's our passion, and that's, I think, all really bred into us. I do think that even though Dad was so sick, you also just think that they're bulletproof, and so I think I just kept on probably telling myself that it was going to get better, and then yeah.
And it's a pretty obvious link to make that you'd think, do you remember going down and seeing him when he was having treatment and thinking, I wish we had a better place to stay? Or did that impact you what would you have been in your early 20s?
It was my first year out of school,
Yeah.
so I was 17 when Dad first got crook, and it was, Peg and Jack were at school still. Peg was in year 11 and Jack was year 9. And Em and I were at home on our own with a lot of responsibility, but people really rallied around us. But I do remember, coming down to Brisbane, and we were lucky because of friends and everything and had somewhere to stay. But it was in someone else's home, so it's different, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think losing your father as a young adult, did that change what you had been through, the way that you had sort of lived your life up until then? Do you think it changed your life like that in a profound way, or?
I do think so. Probably had to grow up a lot faster. I know how excited I was about my first year out of school, and just idolised Mum and Dad, and was so excited to be working alongside them and learn everything I could. And I do think in some ways I felt a bit cheated that I never got that, and I think I was probably angry about that for a while and quite lost. But I think now that I've drawn a lot of strength from that, and I guess it's just another one of those part of my life that shaped me, I suppose.
Yeah, just part of the journey.
And I'm so glad that I got to call him my father, and that we had him for as long as we did.
Oh, for sure. And I asked you about when you were at the lowest point. So what about when you're at the happiest point? Was it cutting that ribbon of common ground, that lovely red ribbon?
I don't know. I think, I feel really blessed. I've got 3 really healthy girls. I'm healthy. I've got a great family. I've got some really good friends who've helped me through lots of stuff. Yeah.
So every day is a happy day. Now, this might be a sort of a self-evident question, but who do you think's been the most influential person in your life, Georgie?
I honestly think my parents. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't split them. The pair of them.
No,
Not
I
one person?
don't. No, I don't. I think both of them. I feel, so lucky.
Sure, loving family. Mind you, I'll just tell you quickly, I asked my husband this question this morning and he said, oh, you? And I said, well, it's not a trick question. You don't have to say me. And he said, oh, well, in that case, and I can't remember the name that he said, say George Brown. And I said, oh, who's George Brown? And he said, the coach of the Bulldogs. So, yeah, that's how deep he is.
I must really, definitely both of them. I must say, I love the way my dad had a lot of time for young people, especially if he knew you were interested. He wouldn't give you his time if he knew you weren't interested, but if you were interested, it was all the time in the world.
Amazing legacy. Do you think that your priorities have changed since you were a younger person? Or are you just going full steam ahead all the time?
No, I think definitely. And I feel like probably, keep evolving all the time. Like, learn all the time, learn from your mistakes. And I think mistakes are the best way to learn. Well, either you learn from them or...
What mistakes can you point to that you've taken a life lesson from, do you think?
God, I wouldn't even know where to start. But no, I think...
Yeah. All right. Well, probably, again, this is I didn't write these questions very sort of thinking about your case, but what's the most memorable lesson you may have learnt from your parents? Do you have one in particular? Is it all about hard work and persistence?
I think that if you dream it and you're prepared to work for it, well, go.
Yeah. Amazing. You might not be much of a royal watcher as a young person, but do you have a favourite royal, Georgie?
Well, one of my absolute pin-ups is definitely Edith Eger. She's a Czechoslovakian-born American psychologist and Holocaust survivor. She's 97, I reckon, and she's amazing.
Right. How do you know about her?
Just through reading, just things that pop up, and then I've listened to some different podcasts and stuff with her, and just the way she, her books and things, you could read them again and again and take something more away every time, and she's, to go through Auschwitz and come out the other side with such grace and gratitude to life. And yeah.
Can you remember how you first heard about her?
No, I can't actually. I feel like maybe one of my sisters heard an interview or something with her, and
what was her name again?
Edith Eger.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So she's like royalty to you.
I think she's amazing. Yeah.
Wonderful. And coming from the bush, you would have been to many B&S's and many balls and things like that. What's the song that can't keep you off the dance floor, Georgie?
Well, I think most people who know me know that I love the dance floor. It probably doesn't take much, but...
Just the elevator music.
I do love Summer of '69, Bryan Adams.
Great. Excellent. Perfect choice.
And many others.
And many others. Who's your favourite? Do you love country music?
I do. Yeah, I do. I love country music and I love a lot of old music. I don't think I've got a favourite. I listen to music a lot.
Do you? Yeah.
And loud.
Wonderful. Georgie, the things that you're doing with Common Ground is just incredible. It's just, I think maybe there should be a PhD written about it. And one day I hope to see you getting Australian of the Year or something like that for what you've done, and for country people who come down to seek medical treatment here in Toowoomba. It's incredible, and thank you.
Megan, thank you so much.
And we're going to get tickets, and I'm going to see you at that rodeo on the 22nd of March, aren't we?
Can't wait. And if there's, I really hope that if people haven't gotten tickets yet, that they jump on and grab one through Try Booking, because it's going to be a hoot.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me on Big Little Small Talk today.
Thank you, Megan.
That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on Big Little Small Talk. I hope you can make the time to join me next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favourite podcast app.